Okay. Now,
Live streaming is on.
okay. Okay, so today we are going to do a for in loop, and I'd probably skip this part because um it's used for something we call JavaScript objects. And so you may not totally get the concept because we have not treated objects, and we are going to be treating objects in the next section. So um but basically I just want to give a little overview of the objects. Okay, so there's something called an object in JavaScript, and basically objects are like your object that you know. And object has properties, and that's how you can call it an object. So if you see a bucket has a property. Um if you see a fan has a property. If you see an orange has a property. So that is an object. So the for in loop is iterate used to iterate over an object and to show its property. So I'm going to skip this because it might look confusing because it's a beginner's class. So when we have treated the JavaScript objects, I am going to come back here. So we are going to put a little pen on this. All right. So let's go to loop control. Um, Loop control is basically and when you are doing your for loop and the while loop, and you want to control how they run, want to control what happens. That is what is called loop control. So let's study this together. JavaScript provides full control to handle loops and switch statements. Remember, we have talked about switch statements when we talked about if, else, and the switch case. So there may be a situation when you need to come out of a loop without reaching the bottom. So let's say you are counting 1 to 10. There may be a reason why you want to, before you count to 10, there may be a reason why you want to get out of that loop. So remember that loops, when you are running a loop will continue to run until a condition is met. Okay, there could be reasons why you want to break out of a loop before it completes, and that is what we call loop control. There may also be a situation when you want to skip a part of your code block and start the next iteration of the loop. Okay, so to handle all such situations, JavaScript provides break and continue statements. So when you are running a loop, JavaScript has keywords that you can use to break out of a loop or you want to continue a loop. So when you are repeating stuff, remember that loops are called repetitive actions. When you are repeating something over and over again, they are loops. Okay. These statements are used to immediately come out of any loop or to start the next iteration of any loop, respectively. Okay, so let's look at this statement, and there's one we call the break statement. The break statement, which was introduced with the switch statement, is used to exit a loop early. So when you want to exit a loop, use the break statement. An example we sort of explain this concept very well. So let's look at this flowchart. Okay, so you come in here, you come in through this block. So you come in here. If the condition is true, then there's a conditional code, and then you break the statement. But as long as the condition is false, you keep doing the loop, you keep doing the loop, you keep doing the loop. When the condition is true, then you break off. Okay. So Now let's see an example. The following example illustrates the use of a break statement with a while loop. Remember our while loop? Notice how the loop breaks out once x reaches 5 and reaches to document the right. So let's copy this loop. Um, let's copy this guy and then paste in our okay and paste in our Visual Studio Code. Yeah. So um, let's get rid of this guy. And instead of using var, let's use let. Edit our code to use let. And okay. So let's analyze this code a little bit. So we have let x equals to 1. So what they have done here, they have assigned x, they have assigned 1 to x, and then it's going to print on the website that you are entering the loop, so they are entering the loop here. Now there's a while loop. Remember while loop continue. What while loop does is that it continues to run until the condition is its condition on the condition is true. So we are iterating x here. So as long as x is less than 20, you are supposed to run all this stuff. You are supposed to run all this stuff as long as x is less than 20. Once x is equal to 20 or greater than 20, it's going to stop. But there's a little condition here that if x equals to 5, it should break. That means you should stop when x equals to 5. So as long as x is not equals to 5, it will continue to run what is inside here. But it will break out once x equals to 5. So let's let's run this on the browser. It's going to show. Okay, so it's entering loop according to our code. So let me bring out the code here. Enter the loop, and while x is less than 20, x is equals to 1 because we have declared 1 here. 1 is less than 20, that is true. Is x equals to 5, that is false, so it's not going to do this one. So it's going to go over here and say x equals to 1, the value of x plus 1, and it's going to assign it. That's 2. And it's going to write that value of x, that's 2, and it's going to write it here. And it will continue to do that. And then when x equals to 5, when the iteration is about 5, and then it comes here and sees that 5 equals to 5, it's going to break. And once it breaks out of this while loop, and it doesn't execute anything in this while loop, and it comes over here, exiting the loop. So let's say we have our x to be equals to 10 here. It's going to run this stuff for about till it gets to x equals to 10. And this is what we are seeing. The 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it breaks, basically. So so this break statement breaks a loop, takes it out of that loop. So this breaks out of the loop completely. So it doesn't iterate anymore once there's a break statement. Okay. And okay, so we've looked at the break statement, and then there's a continue statement. The continue statement tells the interpreter to immediately start the next iteration of the loop and skip the remaining code block. So when you see the continue, when JavaScript interpreter see the continue button, continue statement, it tells it to start the next iteration of the loop, and skip the remaining code block. We'll see that in our code in a while. So when a continuous statement is encountered, the program flow moves to the loop, check the expression immediately, and if the condition remains true, then it starts the next iteration. Otherwise, the control comes out of the loop. So I'm going to check that in a bit. Um, okay, I copy that and I'm going to copy it here so that we will be able to explain that. Formatting my document. Let x equals to 1. Okay, so while we have assigned 1 to x, document.write entering the loop. While x is less than 10, as long as x is less than 10, try to do what is inside here. That's what we are saying right now. But it's going to iterate the value of 1 of x. So and so if x is equals to 5, continue. That is, skip the rest of the loop body. Skip instead of going back to do the loop, skip the rest of the loop body and just print this guy. So we are going to see that. Let's run that stuff and we're going to see. Okay. Okay, so when x equals to 5, you see it doesn't print 5 here because it tells you to skip that part. Just continue. Don't go over again for the x equals to 5. Then continue the iteration. Don't do anything for when x equals to 5. So it skips the rest of the loop body. Okay, so I hope that is understandable. Um, okay, there's also one that you can use label to control the flow. I won't advise you to use labels to control flow of a JavaScript program. It's like going back to the 1980s when you are controlling loops. But it would be nice if you could check this over and try to understand it. They use you are going to be using label. Once it sees the label, it tries to continue or break. So you could check that out for this. But personally, I won't advise labels to control the flow of your application. All right. Okay. Let's go over to functions. This is very cool. Before I continue, I need to find out if you understand. Do you understand the comment section? So before we continue, use the comments. Do you understand? Am I talking to myself? Okay. Thank you, Keisha. Okay. All right. So let's go over to JavaScript. Um, JavaScript function. Okay, you are going to be using a lot of this and in your programming. So it's very important that you understand what is a function is. Every programming language has a function. So you are going to be needing this very well. Okay, so a function is a group of reusable code which can be called anywhere. Take note of this keyword called. It's called. All right. It's called. This eliminates the need of writing the same code again and again. So let's say you want to do stuff and you know that you have to do that stuff over and over again. Let's say, okay, let's use a real life situation now. Let's say it is constant that you okay, so you are writing a program, and then in the program you know that users, one of the things users do on your program is to send money to somebody. So instead of writing um, the send functionality over and over again when users want to use it, you could you would write a function that does that functionality. So, so instead of writing and repeating yourself, a function that does that functionality, like it is said, function. So you use functions for functionalities, basically. So when you want to write code that you are reusing over and over again, you use a function. It helps programmer in writing modular codes. Functions allows a programmer to divide a big program into a number of small manageable functions. Like other programming language, JavaScript supports all the features necessary to write modular code using function. You may have seen functions like alert, right? Okay, so um, we have document.write. Let me delete all this guy. This guy. Okay, so we have document.write, and that is a function. What this write does is that it's writing something on the screen. So let's say um we want to write this write function. Now imagine writing this write function over and over again. It's a lot of codes that goes in the write function. So imagine you writing it over and over and over and over again. So instead, you have written this function that you just call it. Right now, what we are doing here is that we are calling the write function that we write on our screen. Okay. So JavaScript allows us to write our own function, and also uh, JavaScript has um, a couple of functions that they have written for us that you don't have to write. For example, you have the alert function. This is an alert that shows an alert on the browser. If I run this, it's going to show an alert on our browser. See, this is an alert. You can see it's a function, it's an inbuilt function that JavaScript has given to us. Now, because JavaScript has inbuilt function, we can write our own function for something that we can do. So this alert has been written somewhere. What we are doing is just calling it from where it is done, where it is kept. And instead of writing this functionality to show on our browser over and over again, so we have they have written a function for you to call and use and enjoy. So same way goes for the way you write your code. Once you have it, need to write functions that does a task. Okay. So function definition. Before you use a function, we need to define it. So when you want to write a function in JavaScript, you need to define that function. You need to tell uh you need to define it. You need to name it. You need to give it uh, what it will do, and that is called function. And you need to define it. All right. The most common way to define a function is using the function keyword, followed by a unique function name, a list of parameters that might be empty, and a statement block code. That's a lot of gimmicks, there's a lot of grammar, so we are going to go show me your code. Okay, to write a function, so let me wipe this in our script. To write a function in JavaScript, you're going to use the function keyword. I'm having suggestions on my Visual Studio Code right now. And if you write the func, it give you um, It will give you a, a suggestion, and if you see that suggestion, you have function, name, and params, etc. And we are going to go into that. So for now, let's write everything from scratch. Okay, so to write a function, you are going to use a function keyword. It's a reserved keyword in JavaScript. What we are doing here is that we are declaring to JavaScript that we are writing a function. Okay. Now, when you are declaring a function, you need to give it a name. You need to give it a name, and basically, mostly when you write the name of a function, it's usually what that function does that you are going to give it. Okay. Let's say a function that adds two numbers. Add two numbers. Add two numbers. Okay, so I've given it a name. So I'm telling it that I'm telling JavaScript that I'm creating a function that has the name add two numbers. Now you're going to do an open and close, um, and then you have your curly braces, open and close, and this is how to declare a function. Okay. Um. So whatever you want to do, you do it inside this block code. Whatever you want to do it inside this block code. All right. So with a function, you inside this, is it a bracket? This is a bracket, right? Okay. Inside this bracket, you can define a parameter. You can define something we call parameter. So a function can take in something. So let's say you are looking at function like a machine. So let's say you want a machine to process something. You have to feed it something. Have to feed it something to give you an output. So that's the thing about function too. If you don't feed function with anything, it will just do what is inside of it. But if you feed it with something, it will be expecting you to pass something to it. It will be expecting you to pass something to it, and so that it will be able to feed on. Okay, so and those things, when you are declaring a function, if you want that function to accept something, you have to pass something we call parameters. So parameters are usually, you can pass parameters by declaring a variable in it. So you can say AB. Okay. So add two numbers. The function is add two numbers. You can say we will pass you the first number and we will pass you the second number. Did I write name there? Oh, sorry. I thought I'm filling a form. Okay. So we have written a function with the function keyword, and the function name is to add two numbers, and then we have parameter first name and parameter second name. So let's continue and we have the syntax here: function, function name, parameter list, and then you have a block of statements here. So these people says we should try the following example. It defines a function called say hello. Okay, so let's try that. We are going to keep our function. Let's write another function called say hello. Say hello doesn't accept anything. Let me comment this guy out. Say hello, and then the code, the input function of JavaScript using alert. So say hello is hello world. Okay. Now, the functionality of this function is to say hello. And once it comes here, it's going to just show alert called hello world. Now, you can't use the function like this. If you are going to use this function like this, you have to call it. JavaScript won't see anything on your screen right now because you are not calling it. You see, we are not seeing anything on our screen because we are not calling that function. So when we have defined a function, you have to call that function. Okay, so how do you call a function? It is here. So calling a function. To invoke a function somewhere later in your script, you would want to simply need to write the name of the function and as shown in the code below. Um, we'll come back to this, but to say hello, we will just call the function say hello like this. We just say hello. So once JavaScript comes here, it's going to see that, oh, you have declared a function called say hello. What is inside that function? It's called hello world. You are telling me to alert hello world to the browser. Then you are telling me to call it here. So once you see that you have called it here, it's going to do exactly as you said. Call. Okay. Hello world. Boom. Okay. That is fine. Okay, so let's follow the example. Did someone leave our stream? Okay, other people came here. Thank you for joining. Okay, let's use the example. So they wrote a function to say hello, and it's going to display on the screen hello world. Okay, what did they do again? They put the script on the head, which I don't like. But we have a form here. Let's just take the form and the form here. Okay, so they've declared a p tag. Click the following button to call the function. So we have a form and tag. I'm guessing you know HTML, CSS. This is a JavaScript class, so it's beyond the scope of our tutorial. But we have a form tag. It has an input type of button. So this is going to create a button for us. And there is a function on click that is calling say hello. That means that when you click on that button, it's going to look for this function and show and do what exactly is inside this function. So say hello. The value is say hello. Okay. So let's run this. Oh, it shows when I click on it, it's showing say hello. Yeah. Okay, so instead of document.write, they just do alert and say hello world. Okay. And when I click on say hello, it's going to show hello world. Yeah. So so far so good. Do you understand? If I continue, and do you understand this what I have done so far? If you have questions, here is the time to ask the questions. Do you understand what functions, what a function is, and how to declare a function? Okay, no questions. Okay, that is fine. Um, sorry. Okay, so let's continue. Kisha, do you have questions? Okay, that's fine. Genius. Okay, function parameters. we've talked about this parameter. I've explained that, but and so I'm going to give a demo of function parameters. Okay. Um. So we remember that we wrote a function the other time. So I'm going to comment it out. Um. Okay. So we wrote a function to add two numbers. So we are going to be parameters is when your function takes in input. Let me see what their definition of function parameter is. Till now, we have seen functions without parameters. What is a parameter? Programming an input variable of a procedure definition that gets an actual value argument at execution time, whatever that means. But there's a keyword here, an input. So when you want a function to have an input, you use parameter. Parameter sort of collect that input. But there's a facility to pass different parameter when calling a function. These passed parameters can be captured inside the functions, and any manipulation can be done over those parameters. A function can take multiple parameters separated by comma. Okay, so Um, okay, so we have declared a function add two numbers, first number, second number. Now let's declare the sum of the numbers. Let's initialize it to be 0. There's no need. Let's just say the sum will be the first number plus the second number, right? So we are going to alert on our screen sum. And let me use this. The sum of the two numbers is. So I is going to alert the sum of the two numbers is sum. Sum is first number plus second number. Okay. So let's come over here to our our input button. This is a button, and the button will say sum two numbers. Okay. And instead of doing say hello, we're just going to say add two numbers. We are going to call this function here add two numbers. But if you over at add two numbers, it's showing that first name, second name is required. And so let's say we want to sum 5 and 7. You see how we are passing it. So because this function is looking for first number, it's looking for second number, so we are going to say 5 and 7. So this is our first number 5, our second number is 7. Okay, so let's run that and see what it gives us. Sum two numbers. Yay, the sum of the two numbers is 12, basically. So now imagine that this function is not taking it's not taking parameters. That means I will have to be tweaking the numbers here. But because the definition of function is when you don't want to write codes that, when you don't want to write repeated code, when you don't want to be repeating code over and over again. So you just write a function that handles that. So the function now is taking parameters. So I can call the function anywhere. So I can keep this somewhere, and when I want to add two numbers together, I just say add two number. So I'll then pass the number. Let's say I want to pass 100 and then pass 108 this time around. And when I want to sum the two numbers, it's going to give me 208. Simple and straightforward. I hope you understand that. Okay. Um, let's go to return statements. Um, okay. A JavaScript function can have an optional, so it's optional, return statement. This is required if we want to return a value from a function. So if you want a function to return something, you should use your return statement. For example, you can pass two numbers in the function and then expect the function to return their multiplication in calling in your calling program. So let's try the following example. Um, okay, so we have function concatenates. We have the function concatenate, and it's, adding first and last number is adding them together. And then there's another second function, var result. Result equals to concatenate. Okay, so let me copy this and paste it on our script. And then let me use let. I hate var. Var. And then let me copy this. Oh no. And paste this here. Now let's see the code together. Now we have a function called concatenate. First, last. Concatenate is taking two parameters, the first and the last. What it's going to do is that they have declared a variable called full here. And full, what full we say is going to take is going to take the first. So let's say the first is Zara and the last is Ali. And it's going to add them together. It will be Zara Ali and it restore it in full. Now there's a return statement here, and the return is going to return the value of this full. So whenever you call this coordinate, it's going to return the value of full. There's the return statement here. That's why when you come to the second function, let result, then you have declared a variable called result, and then you are saying result is concatenate. That is the name of the function. So you are calling the function and you are passing Zara Ali to that function. You can see that is assigning the value of concatenate to result because there is a return keyword here. If there is no return keyword here, you cannot do it like this. It's returning it. That's why you can assign the value of the function and you can assign it to a variable. And so if you say document.write, it's going to show results. So in the input, there's a button that is calling the second function and it's going to concatenate Zara and Ali. Okay, so let's run that and call function Zara Ali. See, Zara Ali. All right, I hope that explanation is good for you. I hope that is good for you. So there's a lot to learn about JavaScript functions. However, we have covered the most concepts in this tutorial. Okay, and yeah, that will be where we are going to stop in this class. So by next week, should go over to event, cookies, page redirect, and stuff. Okay, for your take-home assignment, you are going to go over to Free Code Camp Sorry. In preparation for next week, you are going to go over to Free Code Camp. I am going to do exercises on functions. Um, Let me see if I have function here. Uh, I function. I think I saw function somewhere. Okay, so I have, yeah. Write reusable JavaScript to functions. Yes. Passing value to functions with arguments. Global scope and functions, local scope and functions. Return a value from a function with return. This is basically um, what we have learned today. Understanding undefined value returned from a function, assignment with a return function. Okay, return value. Okay, so and you can go over here and learn and do the exercises on JavaScript functions so that you'll be able to grab the concept of functions very well. So far, so good. Okay, so if you have questions, let me know right now before we call it a day. Any questions? Do you understand today's class? Do you understand today's class? Gideon, you want to speak? Can you speak? Okay, Kisha, no questions for you.
Hello?
Anybody? Yeah, Gideon.
Yeah, this is John. Yes. My question is when you were adding those two numbers,
Yes.
you 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 imputed the two numbers in your code. Is it not possible to write it so that you allow the user to key in the value? Maybe value one, the user will put the second value, and then we see the results.
Yeah, of course, it's possible. But we have not gotten to that very well. When we are doing JavaScript DOM, when we are doing JavaScript DOM, we will learn how to take inputs and manipulate JavaScript DOM. So that is in the works.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay. In the absence of no questions, um, we are. Remember to join us on our Telegram group. I'm going to drop it here. T.M. Code Clan Nigeria. And also follow us on Twitter, Code Clan Nigeria. You're on Twitter as well. And we are going to post in on our meetup page. Look out for the RSVP for next week class, and so that you can join. And also remember to go to that YouTube channel. Where I'm going to upload today's class there in case you want to watch the video all over again. Okay, thank you everybody for joining this class. We'll see you next week. Bye.